Looks like I'm set up for live streaming. So, gosh, I gotta get better at doing this. Hopefully using my phone will be better and that my dog won't bark at whatever car just drove up in front of our house. Right, Charlie? You a good girl? Good. So, hi everyone. This is Nathan. I do want to do live streams more regularly, probably during the evening around this kind of time. Seems to be when I have the time to do it. I'd like to, use live streaming effectively for marketing, because it's not easy to just make posts and just share them on your own and try to get the word around that you have a book out, which it is available right now. Withered Kingdom by Nathan Thomas Orgel on Kindle. It's $3.99 US, and you can get it on your phone, on your desktop, any device that can run the Kindle app. You'll be able to use it, or read it, I should say. Kind of like I mentioned a little while ago in the last video that I posted, I wanted to read The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe live because it's one of my favorite poems, if not my favorite poem ever. And Edgar Allan Poe is also just one of my favorite authors ever. It's really inspiring to me. His style is just something else. The darkness that he has, the way that he can use his words and construct an image that's not just interesting but also deep. Because he can, like in The Fall of the House of Usher, he can talk about a house and make it sound like he's talking about a person instead of just a house. That's something that I strive to be able to do. This is the copy that I have here. I know I showed this the last time I was on the stream. So it's basically the collected works of Edgar Allan Poe. It's in a hardcover. I got it at Costco a few years ago. Like, it's got all these fancy filigrees and stuff. Even on the back here, you can see some of the filigrees are like skulls and things like that, imitating his signature style of the macabre. This is a pretty thick book, as you can tell. There's I'm pretty sure it's the collected works. Pretty sure it's everything he ever wrote. There's a very short introduction, and then a section called Tales, which is, I don't know, basically short stories. I don't know why they would choose to say it that way. Yeah, it has a short introduction, and then a section called Tales, and then the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, which I believe is probably not a novel, but maybe a novelette or a novella. The Journal of Julius Rodman, another longer story, but that is still less than 100 pages. And then in the back section is poetry, which is why I'm holding it open like this, because why would you make a book with Poe's poems and not start with The Raven? See, it does have The Raven, Lenore, To the Lake, The Sleeper, Fairyland, The Valley of Unrest, Dreamland, To Helen, To One in Paradise, Israfel, Romance, The City and the Sea, The Conqueror Worm, The Haunted Palace, Sonnet Silence, Tamerlane, El Dorado, The Bells, Alone, A Dream Within a Dream, and Annabel Lee. I haven't read a lot of those, and I think I should before too much longer. Keep calling myself a big fan of Poe, but I haven't really read quite a lot of his stuff. Some. I read The Murders in the Rue Morgue, and his other mystery novel that's the Proto-Sherlock Holmes. It's basically the first mystery stories written before Arthur Conan Doyle was able to start publishing his stuff for Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. The Raven is kind of long as a poem. It's a couple pages here. Hope my voice holds up. I hope I'm able to pronounce things in ways that aren't stupid. And I hope my clock that does a very pronounced loud chime at the hour will not go off in the middle of the stream. If you are watching, say hi, please. I'd love to see if anyone does show up while I'm actually streaming or if it's always after. I know I don't have the best reading voice, but I don't know. I feel like I got to do something to pay a little tribute to this time of year. It's October 2nd. I mean, that should be time-stamped. October 2nd, 2020. It's been a crazy year. I figure why not publish a book during 2020, because who else will? Apparently not George R.R. Martin yet. I have no idea if the next Game of Thrones book is coming out yet or not. I don't really read Game of Thrones, but I have read The Sand Kings, which is a story also by George R.R. Martin that's supposed to be getting a movie, I think. It's really weird to me because it's kind of a short story and it seems like it's fit to be like an episode of Twilight Zone. I don't think it can really make it as a full-on movie. So, that's unusual to me. But I suppose before I spend too much time yakking, I will read for you The Raven. Again, please forgive mispronunciations. And I don't know, I might say things in odd ways. I'm not very good at this, but I'm trying to get better by doing some of these readings. And maybe if I feel good about this one, if you guys leave some comments and some likes, I'll probably come around do Annabel Lee, or I don't know, read through some of these for the first time. I don't think I'll read anything longer than that, because I'm just not that confident in myself. But here goes. The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of some one gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with such fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor, entreating entrance at my chamber door. 'Tis some late visitor, entreating entrance at my chamber door. That it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, darkness there, and nothing more." Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token. And the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this and nothing more. Back into my chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping, somewhere louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door. Perched upon a bust of Pallas above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though my chest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl, to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door. Bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door with such name as nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken only by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, that what it mutters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of nevermore, of never, nevermore. But the raven, still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, with this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore, meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er she shall press, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by angels whose faint footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet, all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore. Is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above thee, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aidenn it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him, streaming, throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul, from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor, shall be lifted nevermore. And my dog is licking herself very loudly. So there's actually a poem called Lenore right after that, which makes me wonder if it's kind of in the same continuity or anything like that, or if that's something that Edgar Allen Poe ever thought about. Some of these are actually really short. I had no idea. Kind of figured everything was about as long as The Raven, or even longer. The Conqueror Worm reminds me that the name The Conqueror Worm for that poem reminds me that the Dune trailer is out. If people haven't seen the trailer for Dune, you should definitely check it out. It's really something. It's probably the best trailer I've seen for a movie ever. It's going to be a big deal, I think. A lot of people are going to compare it to Star Wars, but they should know, if they do, that Dune came first. Not this movie, but the book itself came well before George Lucas managed to write his novelization of the first Star Wars movie. Tamerlane is a long poem. That's longer than The Raven. El Dorado's really short. The Bells, I think that's like a Christmas one. And interestingly enough, The Raven is almost more fit for Christmas time than Halloween. Obviously it's sort of a dark and horror theme, but it seems like there's a pretty strong tradition, at least in the United States, in the colonial era, of telling ghost stories around Christmas and around the time when it's darkest outside for the longest period of time, because I don't know, just seems to have come around a lot. It seems like a lot of horror stuff is set in winter rather than fall, in old colonial times anyway. And it just seems like our modern cultural adaptation of like pagan observance of All Saints Day, All Hallows Eve, has kind of taken that over and moved most of our ghost storytelling and most of our horror into a more, I don't know, manageable climate. At least for me. I live in Wisconsin. It's really cold here. Just generally. I would say it's pretty hot and humid in the summer, but I've been places where it's hotter. I've lived in Las Vegas and Arizona, so I know it definitely gets hotter. Annabel Lee is pretty short, and I figured while I'm here, while I've got this set up and I've got some time, the clock shouldn't start chiming during this. It's short enough, but I figure I might as well read this as well. So, Annabel Lee. It's been a while since I've read this one, but it's one that I definitely remember hearing. So, Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived, whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child, in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee. with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that, long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so all the night tide I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in the sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. So there's a little bit of Halloween spirit for you. Maybe just because I'm able to read through stuff like this a little faster than I originally thought, I might try to do a live stream of something like The Fall of the House of Usher. Mask of the Red Death would be especially appropriate. Just realized how much my camera is bouncing as I move around. Sorry about that. The Mask of the Red Death is about a deadly disease and killing people thinking that they're safe from it. This is 2020, and COVID-19 is raging, and I don't know what story could be more timely. I'm wondering if, besides cholera, if Edgar Allen Poe lived during any sort of epidemics or pandemics. I know pandemics were a lot less common because we weren't, flying everywhere all the time like we do now, or driving in cars all over the place. Ooh. Yeah. Message Found in a Bottle. That would be an interesting one, because I've wanted to read that one for a while. Just kind of going through the contents here. Also has Berenice Morella. Some passages in the life of a lion, lionizing. The Assignation, Bonbon, King Pest, Metzengerstein, that's an interesting name, probably mispronouncing a lot of these. Bonbon, King Pest, sorry, I just did those. Silence, A Descent into the Maelstrom. I think this one's pronounced Lygia. I've heard I think it was a reading of Lygia or Lygia by one of the old horror movie stars. I forget his name. It's Vincent Price. I think it was Vincent Price reading it. It was really interesting because I'd never heard it before. I was just in the Halloween spirit, and I found it on Spotify. There's a lot of readings of Edgar Allan Poe on Spotify because obviously it's old enough that it's in the public domain and that there's plenty of material for people to read over. The Fall of the House of Usher, again, probably my favorite. I wrote an essay on that in college, comparing the imagery of the house itself to the imagery of a person's body or their head, especially their brain, sort of being in a state of decay and rot, reflecting Usher himself and what was going on in his life at the time, the death of his sister, I think. I don't know. I have to reread it. It's been a little while. Next one is William Wilson. The Conversation of Eros and Charmion? Yeah, I'm not confident in this. It's amazing for an early in America's history how frequently other mythologies other than I don't know. I guess there wasn't much of an American mythology built up, so the only things to really reference were stuff that carried through by Shakespeare. A lot of Greek mythology and Roman mythology and such names like that. This also has The Man of the Crowd, The Murders of the Rue Morgue, which, like I said, was a proto Sherlock Holmes story. The Mystery of Marie Roget. I think I got that one right. The Colloquy of Monos and Una. The Mask of the Red Death, which I don't think I've ever actually read through The Mask of the Red Death. I think I saw a dramatization of it in high school. The Pit and the Pendulum. I think everyone knows that one. If you don't, let me know. Comment on this video, because I'd be interested in reading that one. The Telltale Heart, which I hope everyone's heard that one. That one I'm actually really interested in reading, definitely before Halloween is over, because that is a fantastic story. If you haven't heard it, it's definitely much more horror than anything before it. Like, if you're really in the right mindset for it, even though it's just words, you're not watching a horror movie, but you can be truly terrified if you're really putting your mind into what's happening, thinking about the implications of what's going on. The suspense is incredible. Yeah. The Telltale Heart, absolute brilliant story. There's also The Gold Bug, which I've never heard of. The Black Cat, Spectacles, The Premature Burial, which definitely haven't heard of any of those. The Facts of the Case of M. Valdemar. I think I've actually heard that one read on Spotify before. The Oblong Box, maybe. The Cask of Amontillado, or Amontillado, depending on, I don't know, how you're supposed to pronounce it, because I'm pretty sure that's an Italian word, but I grew up learning Spanish from 3rd grade. That's kind of growing up time. From 3rd grade till the middle of high school. I took Spanish for 7 years, so when I see 2 L's, I usually want to pronounce it as a Y. So I say Amontillado. I'm probably wrong. Lander's Cottage, Thou Art the Man, which I would be interested in reading because I know that that's a reference to David in the Bible. The Purloined Letter, that's going to be another proto-Sherlock Holmes story. I'm trying to think of what the name is of the detective character. The Purloined Letter, really good one. I've seen that dramatized actually live on stage. Basically a combination of a bunch of Edgar Allan Poe stories combined into one singular production that included a lot of elements of Poe's stuff. It was called Edgar Allan Poe Alive, or Live, an exclamation point. It was like a small theater troupe that would tour around doing that, like probably from Boston or something, which is where Edgar Allan Poe is from. The Unparalleled Adventure of One Hans Pfaall. I hope I'm pronouncing that one right. Pfaall. Fall. It's also Shadow, a Parable, The Oval Portrait, The Imp of the Perverse, Hop Frog, The Balloon Hoax, Eleonora, The System of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather, Never Bet the Devil Your Head, The Sphinx, The Man That Was Used Up, A Tale of the Ragged Mountains, The Devil in the Belfry, The Angel of the Odd, The Island of the Fae, and Some Words with a Mummy. Yeah, there's a ton in here that I haven't read. He was really good at short stories, though. That's something I envy. I feel like you can really get people's attention quick with a short story. But whenever I sit down to write something, I always end up writing it in the longest form possible. I end up writing at least a novel or something longer than that, which takes a lot of dedication, takes a lot of time. You'll spend a lot of time saying that you're writing something and that you're working on a book, and people will be like, well, when are you going to finish? And you have to be like, I don't know. You know, it takes a long time to write a book. Surprise. Not as long to write short stories. I've written a few. Maybe I will read some myself. I wrote a short story called With Joshua at the Bar, which is not what it sounds like. It's not a drinking bar, but I mean, you'll get that if I read it. I might need to go and proofread over it. It's been a while since I've done that. Maybe 2 years, year and a half, 2 years since I've actually looked at that story. Had another short story, but I don't think it's very good. I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to do more short stories, I need to find a way to do sort of what is it called? The Third Wish, or The Last Wish. Yeah, The Last Wish, which is the stories that started the story of The Witcher, which has recently been made into a Netflix series and, a series of video games. Witcher 3 is a really good game. Henry Cavill plays The Witcher in the Netflix Witcher. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of that author. He's Polish, and I can't even remember. It's like Andre. It's on there. I think it's supposed to be pronounced something like Andre, but it's got a Z at the end and a J in it somewhere. Yeah. Whoa. Losing my camera there. I don't know if it's going to fall back again, but yeah. The Last Wish, which is a collection of short stories. It starts off the adventures of the Witcher, Geralt of Rivia. Actually, it might not be the beginning of the continuity, but it's the first one that was published. It's a collection of short stories that kind of establishes the mythos of the character and the world that he lives in. I don't think I can read any of those short stories because the author is still alive, and that would be probably copyright infringement. I'm not going to try to tread on that ground at all. Well, it's been fun. The clock is right about to chime right now. I hope someone sees this. I never see anyone watching. I don't know if you're allowed to see anyone watching while you're actually streaming. I'm still learning a lot about this. There it is. I'll just wait for that to finish. Happy October, everybody. I really enjoy this time of year. I really enjoy Halloween, everything leading up to it. I don't like fall, but I like October, and I like Halloween. But that's all I got today. Thanks for tuning in if you did. I'll try to stream again maybe sometime next week. And I gotta also find how to exit out of a live stream, which might take a bit of doing apparently. Can't turn my phone while live.